Welcome to the Cowboys and Unicorns podcast. This is David.
This is Dan.
And I'm Kaylee.
Kaylee who?
Tiernan, Dan's wife.
Oh man, we've reached a whole new level.
Did you have second thoughts about changing your last name?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I did actually.
That's interesting.
So, I'm the only girl in my family, but when my dad died, I really felt tied to my last name, and so I was like, oh, I kind of want to keep it, but then Dan was really against it, so I was like, we could put a combined one, like Damas Tiernan, and he was like, either just keep Damas, or
just keep Damas or do Tiernan, because I don't like hyphens.
Right, and so I decided.
And then your poor children would have two last names.
I don't like the aesthetic of the hyphen.
Well, and I also have 2 older brothers, but one is a half brother and he has a different last name, and my other brother's not married. So I was like, gotta continue this line, just in case. But
yeah, I shouldn't have had an issue with it.
Wow. Yeah.
Did I have a big issue with it?
Yeah, but I think it's because you're a perfectionist and you didn't like that.
So, is there like an underlying resentment in your relationship about this that we should, really talk about?
We're debating on whether to have a wife on or not. Now Dave's just going to ask.
You need to forgive a marriage, Dave, so I've been really working on it.
Wait, that's a thing?
Yeah.
You need to teach Dave how.
It's kind of like
the
a learning skill.
Doesn't the wife just submit and the man just gets his way?
You would think you could interpret that from the Bible, but that's not. I go, nah on that. Nah.
What's that verse before about husbands give your life for your wife?
Yeah, apparently that one was forgotten.
You can, as long as there's a number, it means that you can just start at that number and just...
Actually, that makes marriage sound really hard. You sacrifice everything for your wife, and then your wife submits. It's like, how could we just I sacrifice some things, and then we both sacrifice some things, and we both submit a little.
Sounds like there are children dying outside. I promise that it's not my children.
Well, then we're good.
Yeah.
I know, first I was like, is that Remy?
It's really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Remy can't say all of that.
Can't say all those words.
Yeah.
Pretty close. She says, uh-oh.
She says that.
Oh, man.
Or no. She's still gonna know. No.
Yeah. So, Kaylee, can you tell the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, why you dragged your husband away from me to a foreign land?
Well, my name's Kaylee, like I said, and I'm married to Dan Tiernan. He's alright.
Yeah, he's okay. He's decent.
He's decent. I live in Ecuador. I live in El Valle de los Chillos, which is right by Quito.
Yeah, can't you just say Quito?
Yeah, but for all the people that actually live in Ecuador, they know what I'm talking about. There's actually a distinction.
So is that like a suburb, in the States?
It's more like a district of the city. So it's kind of on the outer part of the city, because some of the towns right south of us aren't part of Quito.
Right.
Okay.
We live next to a city, or close to a city called Sangolquí, and that's outside of. Okay. It's definitely not Quito, but we just make it.
Yeah. So, I teach down there. I taught English this last year, and I'm gonna teach science to some cool kids. I work at a bilingual school, and so they have classes in English and in Spanish, and I teach them in English, obviously, because I'm a native English speaker.
So science. Are you passionate about science?
I think somewhat. I do have a minor in biology, so I guess I did study it for a long time in some ways, but I think I had a lot more fun with science when I was in grade school and high school than I did in college.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of my motivation for teaching them, is so they have fun and enjoy it.
Right.
Just because of the difficulty level, was less stressful then, or?
I just think because of where I went to school, there was a lot of focus on plant and animals in biology, and I was more interested in human biology. And so part of it was that it was difficult, but part of it was also the classes I had to take
in college.
In college were more
like the subject matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Right. Plants are boring.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but if you are, hey, good for you.
What ages are you teaching?
I'm going to be teaching, it's like, they have it a little bit different back down there, but it's basically 3rd and 4th graders here.
Okay.
They don't use, like, the grade system like we do.
In one class, or do you teach, like, the 3rd graders separate from the 4th graders?
Yeah, so I teach 4 classes every day, and I just teach science.
Okay. Interesting.
So they have science every single day.
So, what is the curriculum in 3rd and 4th grade? I can't remember back that far. Like, what do you actually teach in science?
Well, we have, like, different areas of science. We have, like, life science and engineering type, like, processes.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's kind of all mixed.
Yeah.
But we will be learning about life cycles in 3rd grade to start. And then we're going to be learning about, like, adaptations for 4th grade, like animal and plant adaptations. So, kind of changes as the year goes on. But there's not a set curriculum I teach out of. We just have standards.
Oh, okay.
So that makes things a little
That's kind of
hard.
fun.
Yeah, it's
maybe
good.
fun and maybe hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably better for teachers that have a lot of experience, but I
Right.
don't. So for me, I'm like, oh, this is a little scary, but
Right.
I've obviously, Pinterest is awesome. Woo! For ideas.
Pinterest?
Yeah, actually.
For science ideas.
Yeah. There's a lot of STEM ideas that I'm going to incorporate in my classroom. I
Yeah.
really just want it to be hands-on and them to have fun
Yeah.
and learn something. And so
Right.
that's just the goal.
I don't spend a lot of time on Pinterest, but I feel like it is like sneaky good content for certain like niche things.
Yeah.
I remember a guy in one of my classes in college. He was talking about using Pinterest for like woodworking projects and like getting ideas for that, which makes sense. But I just wouldn't think that'd be the first place I'd go.
Yeah, I mean, I even use next generation science standards, and I can just type in NGSS 4th grade and then have all these things that come up. So actually it's a really good tool to use if you're just looking for ideas.
Yeah. Pinterest is cool. Like, I want to come up with something as simple as that. That's just, like, so brilliant and profitable.
I don't pin much, but at Dan Runs Fast, please follow.
I pin pipes. Well, when I make pipes. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
Oops.
tell us about that. Why have you stopped?
I just got... Well, it was winter.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard in Minnesota
Without a heated garage.
without a heated garage.
Mm.
So there's that element. And then, I've said it a few times, but I kind of got into workaholic mode.
Yeah.
And
I know.
so,
We know.
yeah.
I'm like, whoa, he works a lot. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay, I don't have any time to do anything. So I do hope to get back into it because it's kind of more of like the creative outlet, like doing something with my hands, because everything else that I do is like
On the
technology
computer,
based,
yeah.
or like, I mean, like you can do music but there's something to like actually creating something with your hands that you can like see and touch and feel.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So I'm not like done making pipes. Just
Took a break.
Hiatus.
yeah.
A sabbatical.
On a sabbatical.
You're on a sabbatical.
Unpaid sabbatical.
What are all the jobs where you get sabbaticals?
I mean, like, I know it's a ministry thing.
Yeah, and then also like professors.
Professors.
Right.
Is that it? Because I was talking to somebody at the wedding over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I was asking about a professor, and she's like, "Oh, she's on sabbatical." I'm like, gosh, that sounds nice.
The idea of sabbatical is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get paid.
Could you be like a mechanic and
Do
be like, "I'm
research.
taking a sabbatical"?
That's called an unpaid vacation.
Right.
Do you have enough PLT? Sure, if you want to call it a sabbatical, go ahead.
Kels, if you make enough money someday, I could probably take a sabbatical.
I really feel like there's a theme where you suggest I make enough money, as in Like, I have to be.
I think it's basically marriage. You're just like, hey,
Yeah.
are you making
just,
a lot of money yet? And they're like, no. Are you making a lot of money?
Yeah.
And you're like, nah, not really. We're paying the bills though.
Yeah, you're just wishing, like, there's always this hopefulness that the other person will, like, strike it rich in something that they do and they love, because then...
They don't offer you $150,000 for that? Nah, I'd keep interviewing.
I'm like, I'm never going to have a job.
Don't take it unless it's $250,000.
Anytime we talk about Dan's next jobs that he was going to have, I'm always like, how much are you going to make?
Yeah.
Nah, I think you should make more. Like,
Of course you do.
I think, like, rocket scientist might be a good role.
I don't have the background.
Or, like, CEO.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of work. I'm a complete work balance type of person.
Yeah, that's true.
Completely.
yeah.
I don't think I could be an alcoholic. Oh my god. Freudian slip! I don't think I could be a workaholic if I tried.
I need to take that away from you.
As I sit across from a bottle of bourbon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... I could be a workaholic.
Yeah, Dave, you're halfway there.
Yeah, you were pretty steady.
I'm doing really good,
That's
though.
good, though.
Like, I'm still working a lot, but I'm making, like... I make time for myself in the morning, and then I'm, like, don't let myself go until 7 at the earliest. And then, like, I'm leaving at 5.
Nice.
And,
That's good.
like, leaving my phone away from me so that it's not like, oh, I see an email from somebody, I can respond to this quick. And
Right.
it was kind of helpful.
I've never hooked up work email to my phone.
Oh, really?
No.
So
I barely check the regular. I try not to do email on my phone.
I mean, the hard thing is, like, in the IT world, you do kind of have to be accessible.
Because you're on call.
Because it's kind of like an on-call scenario.
Right.
So, like, there's a healthy balance to it, though, of, like, disconnecting from your phone when you need to. But it was interesting because I think I kind of had this perspective of that, like, without me, things would fall apart. Like, if I wasn't accessible and able to jump on and help out, that, like, there would be issues, or when I'd come back, I would have all, like, weeks worth of work to catch up on. But when we went to Glacier, like, I didn't have any cell phone reception. Like, I couldn't even check emails if I wanted to for 5-6 days. And that was really helpful because, like, I came back and it was like, yeah, there's things to do.
Nobody died.
Nobody died. The world kept spinning.
They
so
kept
I was
paying
like,
you.
this is, like, there's a healthy balance of needing to... And, like, I really appreciated it. Like, I didn't miss having my phone at all. Like, it was really fun to not have my phone.
I feel like for me, it was a lot harder for me in school because I was always like, I could study more. I could do this more.
Yeah.
And at work, it's like, okay. I mean, I think it's going to be different, like, actually being the lead teacher in a class because you can always, like, plan more lessons or do something different.
Yep.
But I am like, yeah, I go to work from this time to this time. And it was good.
Right.
When
So
school, you're always trying to get in an extra hour, an extra half hour.
Well, it's like, oh, I have this free time. What should I do with it?
Right.
And I felt guilty every time I would choose me time.
Right.
Which was bad because you should just schedule me time.
Right.
So then you're not
feel
like conflicted.
Yeah, and that's a weird balance too, like, with me time and needing to make time for your spouse and, like, having a kid and all of that stuff. So that was the super weird dynamic. Because what happened was I just burned myself out because as soon as I could possibly wake up to get myself up, I would just go straight to work. And then I'd come home, and then I had to, like, spend time with my wife, spend time with my daughter, go to bed.
Right.
And if we had, like, downtime, like, oh, we'll watch Netflix, I would feel guilty, like, this is unproductive time, so then I'd be, like, taking out my laptop and trying to work. Well, just relaxing. And, like, I think that was the biggest thing for me was realizing that I have to have time for myself in order to stay healthy. Like, it's an important piece to make, like, your own personal, mental, and physical health is actually important. was something that I guess I hadn't ever been keenly aware of before.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, I work for free time. That's like my goal is that there's enough money to have the space to completely like relax or hang out with somebody and not think about anything or work on my own like projects or something.
See, I think I just had never had to, like the last 2 years have been like that crazy get married and then have a kid. So normal is always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And before that, like, I was a very independent person, so I'd spend time with people, but then, like, had my own house, so I'd have, like, the last 2 hours of the night, or when I woke up, like, I just had time to myself. And so it wasn't ever a conscious decision of I need to make time for myself. So then I jumped into 2 years of never making time intentionally for myself.
It's a rapid transition for you. You
Right.
got a wife really quick, and then you got a baby fairly.
Right. And so then it was just like, since it was never conscious that I needed to make time for myself, because it was always there, I didn't realize that I needed it.
Right.
And then suddenly it was like, I'm dead, burnt out.
I feel that. I did that a lot to myself in school. I remember one summer, I think Dan realized this, I go hard like all school year, and then I like do nothing, like all summer.
For the summer, yeah.
And Dan was like, what? Like, it was a huge transition for me. He was like, these are two different worlds. And I was like, I literally don't give myself any time, which is very unhealthy during the school year. And so in the summer, I just chill.
I started dating you like in November, and yeah, you were like going hard at school, stressed. We were actually apart for the summer because I was in Reading and you were in SoCal with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like, what did you do today? And you're just like, just watched Netflix and went to the hot tub. Like, who are you? I was like, I've never dated this person before.
This is the person I had to like go track down at the library if I wanted to spend time with.
And I was confused because I always try to like, I'm fine with like being busy till about 7 in the evening. But after that, I'm like, I want 2 to 3 hours before sleep to not have scheduled at all. Like that's, but I want that, like, I'll be busy on a Saturday for a lot of the day or doing things or whatever, or Sunday, but I want that span of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kaylee, was it weird for you to transition from, like, how many years of school? Like, 16 years of school to now being like, oh, I'm now at... Well, I guess teacher, you kind of have summer off in some ways.
Well, in Ecuador, too, it's a lot less time, actually. So the kids go to school down there, like, mandatory for 20 more days than they do in the U.S. And then we actually have a lot of meetings. So I get 1 month off of school. The kids get like 2 months off, but here it's more like 3.
Right.
Which, super jealous.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it was actually harder for me to transition when I was a CNA here. And I was a lab manager. Because I wasn't consistent. Like, I really thrive on a consistent schedule every day. I wake up at this time, I go to sleep at this time, I do this every single day.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that because as a CNA, I would work sometimes till 3 in the morning. Maybe I'd work all night if I was doing a double or whatever it was. And then I set my own schedule being a lab manager, but after you go to bed at 4 in the morning, maybe you don't wake up at 8.
Right.
So now I'm waking up at noon and I can't figure out how to like balance my time and my schedule.
Right.
So it's been actually a lot better in Ecuador because I have that. I'm like, okay, I wake up at this time every single day. I go to bed fairly early because I have to wake up early. Yeah. And I get everything done and
So do you have like a morning routine? Like I do these things every morning.
Well, I've been trying to do yoga in the morning, but that has not been successful. So right now, I basically just wake up and eat breakfast and put my stuff together and go out the door. But I think I would like to start.
What do you eat for breakfast?
Is it the same thing every time?
Basically. Yeah.
Oh. She eats bananas and peanuts.
Yep, like every day.
Isn't that an interesting?
I just like take it to go.
Not peanut butter, but like
peanuts. So it's not like down there they have like a crunchy outside layer of this peanuts. It's not like the peanuts we have here. And they're really good. So I just take the peanuts and a banana and then go throughout my day. And have lunch and stuff. But it's like super healthy and it's easy for me to grab in the morning.
Yeah.
Why did you move to Ecuador?
Why did I move to Ecuador? away from my husband, and by then he came with me, so I was like,
Dang it.
oh, no.
If you had let me know, I would have trapped him in the basement.
Right.
Super.
Just send
I'm
you
so
money.
weird.
Send you.
Yeah, can you get a nice job here and just send me money? Like,
Maybe.
yeah, I mean, after I studied abroad in Peru last summer, around this time, I really loved Latin America.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I really want to live here someday. And my dad actually was in the Peace Corps at one point in his life and spent time in Ecuador. And so I was kind of looking at South America in general to like look at a place to move to and experience the culture there and daily life. And the reason Ecuador came up is because I met someone randomly on a plane, and she gave me her card and was like, we're always looking for English teachers, blah, blah, blah. Because I taught English as a second language here to adults in Morris, and so I was like, oh, that'd be super cool. And so I got a job, and I was like, all right, let's leave. Which has, like, been really, really good, but it's also been hard. And I feel like those are some things people don't really talk about when you always use their Instagram, and you're like, oh, this looks amazing. And it's like, it is amazing, but there's some things that daily life that you don't know because I don't post, like, look at this.
Dan's crying again.
Dan's crying again.
You should have
You can put on your story.
Authentic Kaylee Instagram and then Adventure Kaylee Instagram, and so then you can be like, here's what the money actually looks like.
Right, I wake up and like my coffee's like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to encourage my husband because he's crying because he doesn't know Spanish, but he's also not working that hard at it, so I don't know what to do.
Spent the last 2 hours, and I told him I wanted to go to bed, and
So
he's like, oh boy, let's talk.
Dan, are you someone who wants to talk in bed, or are you someone who just wants to sleep in bed?
Talk in bed, or like
no, like
What?
talk, like,
Have
talk,
a conversation.
clothes on, conversation.
Well, I would prefer to be in the living room. I do have conversations under the covers, but
You're making this so weird.
Kaylee's like a bedroom person. Like she'll
Like
hangs
hang out,
out in her bedroom under her blankets, like watching Netflix.
Yeah.
Chill, yeah.
And I feel like when I'm in the bedroom, like that's the end of my day.
Yeah.
And we're basically, to me, it's like giving up. It's like nothing
It's
else
so
fun
lame.
is going to happen. So we're just in the bedroom and we're lame.
Yeah.
And so
You're
I
like
would,
surrendering.
I'm like, I'll sit on the couch, and then I feel like I have more of a life.
That's
great.
so weird.
And
No, I do relate to that.
yeah, but I go in the bedroom because that's where my wife is.
Interesting.
And sometimes she comes out in the living room with me.
Yeah, because you don't like it. I think it's funny because it's like you think of it as giving up, and I'm like, oh, I gotta go to sleep soon.
I'll be
like,
talking
yay,
to her in the
I love
kitchen.
sleep.
I'll be talking to her in the kitchen, and she just leaves and like, come back,
Yeah.
come back.
I
We have to
like-
sit on the couch so that the day doesn't
I'm
end
eating a
yet.
I
sandwich.
know. And for me, I'm like, it doesn't have to end. You choose when to end your day. Like,
Yeah. Like, so I think it was Bobby that had the, like, it might have actually even been during, like, premarital counseling that he talked about how, like, Whitney, his wife, is the type of person who wants to, like, talk in
Mhm.
bed. And he's the type of person that's like, if we're in bed, like,
I'll be sleeping.
I'm going to go to sleep. So, and I'm very much that way. And Haley is the one who's like, no, like, even if it's 8:30, like, I'm happy to just, like, go sit in bed, talk, read,
Right.
hang out. And I'm like, no, like, when I go upstairs to bed, it's to go to sleep.
Exactly.
But did you, like, as a kid, hang out in your bedroom a lot or no? I think that has a factor because Dan hangs out in the
definitely-
living room with his family.
In junior high, more
Interesting.
in my bedroom, like looking at basketball cards or stuff like that. But as I got older, it's very much the living room. In my
Right.
family, that was the social center.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so I'm usually looking for a conversation, and there's like a bunch of people.
Right.
John was the opposite, and he would try to sleep in the living room, and then he'd get mad at us when we were talking. It was like, John, go upstairs.
Go to your bed.
But I feel like, yeah. I don't know. I think that's interesting because for me, I spend a lot of time in my bedroom.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And so I think that's why I gravitate towards there because that's always been like a safe place.
Yeah.
That's where you hang out.
See, I think I did spend a lot of time, like, in my bedroom. But I was also, like, a fairly depressed teenager.
Right.
So it was very much like, wasn't productive. Like
You associate it with like moping in your bedroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Being away from people and kind of inward. And...
Yeah, like it's more of like a numbing escape. Like I'm just gonna like yeah. And I also fall asleep really fast. So that was the funny thing about Bobby's conversation, which makes complete sense to me. Of like, if I'm laying in bed, I am shutting my brain off, and I will be asleep in 5 minutes. So
you don't read in bed at all? Because I like to read in bed before I go to sleep.
No, like I like to read on the couch and sit on the couch, and then literally if I'm going upstairs, it's because I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
Like that's the only reason that I go upstairs. It's also maybe different because like our bedroom is on a whole nother level and it's only the bedroom up there.
Right.
So it's much more of like, okay, like leaving the like community space. The only thing up there is a bed. Right. You're going to sleep. But
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does it feel not with having a kid? Does it feel more like you have a family, like than just being two people?
It does more and more like in the last couple months because Remy has personality and like you can like go on walks or do things and like you see her and she's experiencing new things. Mm-hmm. So like you're having experiences with her versus, I mean, 2-3 months ago where you could push her around and she would be looking around, but like there's not like this like excitement that you see in this adventure that you see of like, I want to get out and run around. Like I'm upset that I'm in a stroller and like all that. So it feels more like family time. And just the fact that like, even if we're in the living room with Remy, like you can't passively, like it's really hard to just be a passive parent once your kid is active. Which
that's a good quote. It's hard to...
Well, it's true. I mean, even when I'm hanging out with like Remy and stuff, like how do you just sit there?
Right.
And she like always comes up to you and is like, hi, blah, blah, and you're like, I should go play with you.
Right. Yeah. Cause like, I mean, it's very easy. I had an Instagram post about it. Like it's super easy for me to come home from work. Like I've been interacting with people all day and I just want to be mindless. Mm-hmm. But then like have this little human who's like running around and trying to play.
And is so excited to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you also just have to get off the couch. You could, like, I put up the footrest, and then she runs into the kitchen, and you're like, okay, now I have to go get you.
Right.
So there's also a piece of, like, now that she is a little human with a personality and, like, an ability to move around, you kind of have to be more of an active, like, it definitely makes it more of a family thing.
So I know that you and Dan have talked about this before, but are there going to be any other Remys in the picture, or are you guys going to wait a while?
Yeah, someday.
Yeah.
I mean, Haley doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can say I really did not enjoy having a pregnant wife.
Oh, no.
Because she was sick and miserable, and she hated it. And
which wasn't fun for you.
And so then, like, that was just, like, couldn't cook any normal foods, like...
Oh, yeah.
Just, like, it completely changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, it's not even just for 9 months, because then it takes a while after having the baby, like, for her to, like, get back to feeling comfortable and normal.
Right.
And also you now have this new baby that takes all your sleep. Like, now, Remy goes to sleep at 8, and she doesn't wake up till I leave for work. So now I actually can sleep.
And have a life.
So it's kind of hard for me to get excited about, like, going back into that stage. But at the same...
You just got out of it, basically.
Right. But at the same time, I'm also like, we're super young, so we might as well, like, we should have kids fairly soon, because then we can be, like, young 40s and our kids will all be off at college. And
right.
then you can have... Because that's the weird thing, based on our life decisions now. Like, the super adventurous, like, spur-of-the-moment stuff, it's kind of like, you can't do that quite as much. You can't up and move to Ecuador.
What? I don't know what you're talking about. Come anytime you want.
Babies don't even need a work visa, right?
Right? They're
I don't know.
good.
Maybe they do.
Do you even have to pay for a...
I
Do you have to pay for a plane ticket? I mean, she's a lap baby still, right? Maybe? No.
Yeah.
You're getting there.
A screaming baby.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I can't. I feel so bad for, like, I can think of all these different experiences on planes where they're screaming babies, and now I have so much empathy, where before I was so pissed.
Yeah.
Because, like, even just, like, at church or in the grocery store, when your baby starts to, like, throw a temper tantrum, it's like, you feel super self-conscious, and
it's not even.
I
Like,
can't imagine being trapped on a plane.
in an enclosed
There's
space.
nothing you can do. You can't be like, okay, we're just gonna leave, like, gonna go somewhere else.
Cool. You spent 2 months in Peru last summer. What do you think, like, comparing and contrasting Peru from Ecuador? I know, obviously, you weren't in Peru as long.
Mm-hmm.
But are there any, like, major differences that stood out to you, or things that you thought would be the same when you went to Ecuador that are actually different than Peru?
Yeah. Well, geographically, like, where I was in Peru, I was right by the ocean. And so I was there kind of during the winter, and so it was actually quite a bit cooler. And that surprised me. And then when we went to Ecuador, I think it's a lot warmer there. We are in, like, the valley area, but it's super consistent. And I
Super
think,
close to the equator.
yeah, and I think Peru's temperature varies a little bit more than it does in Ecuador where we live. And so for me, I'm glad because I like the temperature in Ecuador quite a bit. And then Peru, sometimes I actually was cold, which was, like, weird for me because I was like, how am I cold? I'm in South America.
So, like, 50 degrees?
Yeah, like 55 maybe in Peru.
It doesn't get that cold unless it's, like, night.
It's like 65
Right.
in Ecuador.
But, like, and when you're by the ocean, the air's a little more
it's like,
moist.
it may not be that cold, but then, like, the wind, like, it's also never experienced, like, a humid cold.
Yeah.
And I've only experienced, like, the hot humid in Minnesota. So
Yeah.
it was weird for me. I was like, why is it, like, humid but cold out?
Yeah. That
in
is
Peru.
Yeah, in Peru.
Is there differences in the Spanish?
Yeah, so there are words, like, specifically in Ecuador they use, and they don't use in Peru. But that's really common across, like, all Spanish-speaking countries. It's like what we...
so hard.
It's like what we do in the U.S. versus, like, Britain. They call it, like, what do they... Like, a bubbler is, like, a water fountain.
That's fairly different, isn't it?
Right. Sometimes there's, like, things that are super different.
Yeah,
like, you
that's
could
true.
say... I don't remember the exact words, but, like, one word means, like, something naughty in one country, but it means bus in another, and you're like, what?
Right, like in London and stuff, isn't fanny, like, a super like...
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I'm like...
Or
It's-
bloody,
Mm-hmm.
like...
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes they ask me at work, will we be sending an email to, like, the travel agents in the UK, and they ask me, like, does that make sense in UK English? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You're like,
Like, you're gonna have to hire one from Australia, one from UK, and one
Right.
English speaker from the States. So one day I made some joke, and I messaged, like, the one person I know from the UK, and she was like, no, that doesn't quite, like, we don't use that word. So
Yeah.
that's good to know. But I don't want to message that person every time.
Right.
I, like,
Right.
Yeah.
try to say something witty in an email.
Yeah. I worked with a guy from Australia for, like, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it was interesting, some of the things that he would say. I forget, like, I think they call, like, a cooler, like, a koozie.
Yeah.
Okay. And for us, that's like a beer holder thing.
Right. So then, like, it was when I was building log homes, and, like, he'd be like, do you want anything from the koozie?
The what?
How much can you fit in there?
Like, you're bringing me a beer? What? Like, yeah, it's interesting the different... Because, like, in the U.S., there's different words that people use, but it's all understandable.
Right.
Like soda and pop, or
Right.
things like that. But, like...
They're more just like fun differences, not actually.
Right. Like, they all still make sense in context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think I actually do enjoy Ecuador more than I did in Peru, even though I wasn't there that long. I I don't know. I think I really enjoy the food. Not all the food. I am somewhat picky, but I do like some of the stuff that they've made that are like traditional Ecuadorian food. I really do enjoy. And
So, like, what's the standard cuisine or like staple meals or?
yeah. So like lunch is a huge deal there. They eat lunch pretty
Big
late,
lunches.
and then you eat big lunches. So you start with soup, which
Okay.
usually has like some type of like potato, rice, some grain in it.
Yep.
Or it's vegetable.
It's good soup, though.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I don't even know the names of all of them. I'm just like, I'll take the soup and I just guess what it is for that day.
Right.
And then they always have rice and then some type of meat. So like seco de pollo, they'll have like chicken and rice and maybe some potatoes. So they have a ton of carbs every meal.
Yeah.
And then maybe some jello for dessert. And so it's really interesting because it's these huge meals for lunch, but you eat them at like 2-3 p.m.
Okay.
But then supper's like late and really light.
Yeah.
So I remember we went out for pizza with some people one time, like the young adult group from a church. And we just ordered like 2 pizzas and all had like a couple slices and a drink.
Sure.
Which was different. It's like, oh, we're not chowing down. We're just kind of having a bite to eat at 8:30 p.m. And
right, because dinner here is the meal.
Right.
Right.
Like there's 10 people, we should get 5
o'clock.
pizzas.
Yeah, you're like,
exactly.
I'm eating all my food for the day.
Right.
When I get home from work.
Yeah, I had a small breakfast, a sandwich for lunch, and now it's time to chow.
So our eating habits have changed quite a bit. Well, obviously because of location, but also because of the schedule of things. Like, I've just, like, not necessarily that I eat later at school, but I've, like, especially my time off, I, like, start eating lunch later. And if I ever did that here, I'd been like, I haven't eaten lunch yet. It's like 2:30. Like,
I eat lunch at like 11.
I know.
I still eat lunch at 11. I just eat it at my desk. And then I just go get a coffee during my lunch break or something.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
So is it like Mexican type spices and stuff,
No,
or is it
it's
like
really
a whole
it's bland.
own? Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, like
It's not spicy. They don't
Well,
really serve a lot of spicy food.
Oh, yeah. But
Some
I
like
think,
sauce.
are you talking about, like, because, like, Mexico versus Ecuador versus...
I'm just thinking like my very small American perspective is like if it's south of the border,
It has
it's
some
like
Mexicans.
Mexican-ish food.
No, it's completely different.
They have Mexican restaurants, right?
Yeah, but not a lot.
No.
Right.
So, like,
Yeah,
but I think
Ecuadorian
you-
food is nothing like Mexican food, in my opinion.
There's
Like,
not a lot of, no burritos.
If you speak Spanish, you eat
yeah,
Mexican food.
Apparently. It didn't
Oh,
know.
jeez. Yeah, I need
Yeah.
some culturing.
But, like, you know, like tacos and all that stuff is really popular in Mexico.
Yeah.
No, not there.
Yeah.
We have what's called maduro, which is like plantain, like those bananas.
Okay, yeah.
And you cook them. That you just, like, they're aged bananas, and you cook them, and it's like sweet bananas, and they'll eat stuff like that.
Okay.
Or they have, so they use that plantain a lot in a lot of their foods.
Yeah.
So
Someone gave us something, they're like, it's green bananas. I'm like, are those bananas? But they're plantains, right?
they're plantains.
Which are different than
But then
bananas.
they're different
Yeah,
than
kind of.
bananas.
But in English, they
sometimes-
were calling them green bananas.
Because
Interesting.
plantain and banana, plátano means plantain, but it's like banana.
Okay.
Some people don't make the distinguish.
They're like cousins.
Yeah, so it's like, well, yeah.
Come in a similar wrapper.
Aren't they a little smaller in size, or are they not?
The plantains are bigger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or they, what are chifles? What are they? The chips?
That's when you fry, you
cut
slice them up and then you fry the...
Yeah, the plantain. So there's like, they do a lot of stuff with plantains.
Yeah.
So, like, don't think tacos, don't think, like, it's
Right.
completely different. And, like, empanadas, and think of rice and some other carb at every meal.
Right.
It's weird to go to the food courts where there's fast food, but it kind of like Ecuadorian fast food.
Yeah.
There's all these people with plates and they have rice and beans and like a little bit of steak. And you're like,
You're like,
that's
what?
fast food. That just looks like a meal you'd make at home.
Right.
But it's on a platter at the Patio de Comidas.
Yeah, so,
Interesting.
but I always get Pizza Hut.
That's also more...
Yeah.
Yeah, Pizza Hut. Yeah, that Pizza Hut. And,
So do they
food
have
courts.
like McDonald's and those types of...
But there's not a lot of McDonald's. There's maybe like 3 in the city. 2.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of access there to fast food, and there's not, like, drive-thrus. So to me, it's like,
Okay.
you can't go to work and you're like, oh, I'm just going to pick up McDonald's. That's not, I don't think that's really reality.
And like it sounds like with
think I
their culture and the times you eat and stuff, it's not like America where you're like on lunch. I'm gonna quick run
and grab
something to eat at a
No.
fast food restaurant.
Depends where you work. I live closer to some fast food.
right, and I don't. I live kind of like in the middle.
Domino's is more expensive. That's annoying. I walked into a Domino's one day and I was like, nah.
So
Because Domino's here, you get like the deals, like $6 pizzas for medium and stuff.
are the menus like slightly shifted for that culture? So like McDonald's has different things.
Yeah, the sandwiches are a little different.
Yeah, like
Sure.
for example, they eat ham on their pizza in Ecuador.
Don't they do that here?
No, but it's really popular. Like
Oh, okay.
like a basic pizza, you don't think of like a cheese pizza.
Yeah, the
you think
standard
of a
pizza
ham pizza, and you're like, what?
right. Instead of pepperoni and
sausage
sausage.
or whatever.
I think their pizza's pretty good in Ecuador, though.
Yeah, I've actually
And when we
enjoyed
went
it.
to the Galapagos last summer, the pizza was really good.
Yeah, I think I liked it more in the Galapagos.
We've been to some nice Italian places, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been really nice. But, yeah.
So like, were there things that you had expectations on that like you were disappointed by Ecuador, and then were there things that you were like, it exceeded your expectations, and you're like, oh, actually, I thought this was going to be worse, and this is better.
Yeah, for sure. Was disappointed by the speed in which things like were done. Like obviously things move slower, and I kind of like I've understand those things. But like when I'm paying for a service, like when we got internet, and it took them like 3 weeks to get me internet, and I already paid for it. That was like super annoying to me.
Yeah.
Or the fact that if in order for them to get out to my house and actually set it up, I had to call and complain. That's so against Minnesota nice to me that I hate complaining.
Yeah.
And the lady that was helping us with a lot of startup things was from the States, moved to Ecuador when she was 18. And she was telling us, you just have to complain.
Interesting.
And you're like,
It goes against your Midwestern.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable complaining.
From Minnesota.
Yeah, the Minnesota nice.
I passively
dislike what happened to me.
Do you think maybe you're going to get out? Oh, okay, it's no problem.
Next week's fine.
It's not. Hang up the phone and kick yourself.
One weird thing is they stand really close to you in line.
Personal
They
space.
stand right behind you.
Not really a thing. Like, you're really, really close to people.
Yeah.
I was scared, like, my instinct is someone's trying to steal something from me.
Right.
Because you're standing right behind me.
But it's, or like PDA and stuff, like public affection, all that stuff is way more.
Interesting.
I take a lot of public transportation, and there's usually, like on the bus or every other time, some couple just macking out just sitting in the bus, and you kind of like look and then don't look, and well, I guess you're doing your own little thing.
Right.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, culture is just such an interesting thing. I mean, the only real trip that I've ever done was to Nairobi, Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty different.
Right. Yeah, so it's totally different, and it makes you really appreciate things about what you have.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also really appreciate I feel like overall, at least there is less of that everything has to be immediate.
Right.
They do appreciate slowing down and their time, and their priorities are maybe a little bit more
relational almost.
Right, more your culture and your family are important, not just how much money you can make as quickly as possible.
I remember we said yes to our house. We looked around and we're like, yeah, we'll rent it.
Yeah.
And they just invite you in for bread and cheese, and we spent an hour plus
having coffee,
sitting in their house. I mean, granted, we were moving into a house that was on their property, adjacent to their home. But that was weird for me. In the U.S., you would almost you'd have to plan that. If you're going to eat cheese with someone for an hour.
Eat cheese. It's
right.
bread with cheese.
I ate a lot of the cheese. But,
well, and it was super nice is we have some really great neighbors that we met. And we were leaving that day, and I was explaining I'm going to get a taxi, blah, blah, and they're like, oh, we'll take you.
Sure.
We'll take you to the airport.
30, 40 minutes away.
But we'll take you.
Yeah.
There's no problem. And you're like, really? And she's like, why don't you just ask me?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to bother you.
So I'm Minnesota.
Also, sometimes with less money or less wealth, it seems like there's a lot of sharing. So
Very
getting
communal.
rides with people. You
It's
see a lot of
super-
carpooling.
Yeah.
Whereas in the States, it's like everyone has a car. There's 4 extra empty seats. That's just the norm.
Right. And
So
there it's like, oh yeah, for sure, I'm heading that way. Come, and I'm like,
It's almost kind of
oh
efficient.
nice.
It's like you're
Yeah.
using the space within the vehicle that would otherwise go unused.
Right.
So I really do enjoy that community aspect more, which obviously you see a lot more of in like small towns sometimes than bigger cities. But
Right.
it's been really nice to like feel welcomed places.
Yeah.
I mean, Dan and I are still trying to make friends,
Mhm.
but
Right.
We've gotten to know our neighbors better.
we've
though.
gotten to know our neighbors and just like I do like the community part of it. So
I thought people are very friendly.
super friendly and like actually genuine too.
Yeah.
Which has been nice.
Yeah. Greeting is a big thing. Greeting everyone you meet with a handshake
Sloppy
or a kiss on the
kisses.
cheek.
Yeah,
No,
kiss
not,
on one
not
cheek.
sloppy.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
The kiss on the cheek thing would be awkward just at first to get used to it.
Yeah.
Because someone's like coming at you and you're like, okay, wait,
It's almost
which...
not on the cheek though. It's kind of like you put your cheek on their cheek.
Sure.
And then you just make
Yeah.
kiss
At
noise.
work, it's
You
weird
wait-
though
you
because
wait
you do it
for
at
your
work and you're kind of like, this is completely
I'm calling HR.
right. This is like completely inappropriate,
Yeah.
but it actually is appropriate.
Right.
So
Yeah. I think it's different too, like being a girl and a guy, because being a girl, you kiss everyone. You don't ever shake their hand. With a guy, it's like a guy and a guy, you shake their hand.
Yeah.
Unless they're like
Yeah, I
from
like
family, then you might kiss on the cheek. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so it's for standing. The hardest part is when I'm in Ecuador and there's like people that speak English to you.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I greet you?
oh
That's
Sure.
the hard part. I don't know
Sure.
how.
yeah.
Like, should I wave, kiss you? Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, or other people from the U.S.
Other people from the
You're
U.S.
like, so do we do it U.S. style or do we do Ecuadorian style?
That's the hardest for me. I'm like, oh.
Like fist bump. Good to
Yeah,
see
like-
ya.
Or, and one thing for them is like, if you don't say hi, it's really rude.
Sure.
And if you just walk past me, I wouldn't think it's rude. I'd be like, oh, they're busy or they're just
Right.
doing life. Like, they don't need to say hi to me every time
Right.
they see me throughout the day.
Right.
But, like, if you don't do that, it's kind of rude.
And like a wave or like a head nod doesn't count. Like it has to be like a stop.
Well, like a wave and stuff like that. But,
Sure.
like, sometimes people, we don't, like, wave every time we see each other during
Right.
the day. Because we see
I
each
mean-
other so many times.
I do. Drives Haley nuts.
Oh, really?
Like go to Willie's. Every single person I see, it's like, hey, how you doing? Haley's like head down, and she's just like,
Like,
Hey,
keep
You
going.
gotta do head down in Willie's. Otherwise, you'll never get out.
We'll never get out.
yeah, but
Willie's is the place to see. You're gonna see somebody you know.
I see like 6 people I know,
Right.
and a stop in Willie's takes
An
half
hour.
hour, 45 minutes. Yeah, I mean it's kind of funny. Like I even had, I was on the phone. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It might just also be a personality thing. Like I was even on the phone and like I saw someone I knew after church in Willie's. Like that person like came up and like started talking to me.
While you're on the phone.
Cause like I was like on the phone, but like I acknowledged them because I saw them, and so then they're like, "Hey, like, hey, I'll call you back." I don't know. I think that's probably part of like the Enneagram type 3 for me, of like the need for validation and affirmation. So like, if I can have an interaction with someone to like
It's a chance for that external.
feel like, hey, this person values me, or like I had a worthwhile interaction versus I went through my day just like. But that's also probably like a work thing.
Maybe that's why you're tired at the end of the day.
No, that's because I wake up at 5:10 every morning now.
Because you're so cool and you go to CrossFit.
Yeah.
You're in shape.
Getting there.
You could do CrossFit in Ecuador. Just saying.
All right.
Sign you up.
We're moving.
Just gotta get Haley on.
There's a gym near our house, but it looks closed half the time. Like the one across from the gate with the bug car in the driveway all the time.
Yeah, I think it's more. No, I've
Personal?
seen people in the morning, but I think maybe more people go at night. It's hard to tell.
I'll say.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure culturally there's probably a different like timeline to like.
Oh yeah, especially late at night. People stay up late. I feel like Ecuadorians don't sleep,
I know, they get up early and they stay up late.
and I'm like, what? they're like, yeah, because they have to work, right? But then
Yeah.
they stay up late because that's like culturally what you do.
Yeah, if
Like,
you go to the bus stop at 6 a.m., there's plenty of people on their way to work, but
you're like, what? No, I go to sleep at like 9. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I went to bed at 2, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Do
all those slow interactions they've been talking about all day.
So is there more of like families live together
Yeah,
too?
and it makes more sense in an economic sense.
Yeah.
Makes more sense economically too,
Yeah.
because, like, for example, our neighbor lives in a house that was their parents, so that they now live in that house.
Yeah.
But like, if you're only making $1,000 a month,
Right.
like, things are cheaper, granted, but you're not buying a $100,000 house
Right. And when culturally, like, it's acceptable
for sure.
to, like, and even maybe expected and, like,
Right.
to stay close with your family,
Well,
why would you go buy a house?
The
if
house-
you don't have to?
Right. The house we live in, their daughter lived in before, right?
Right.
Like on their property.
Sure.
kids don't leave until they're like 30, though. They don't leave the
Interesting.
house.
But it's interesting to see how like side houses are built on the same, like in the yard,
Right.
so that like the adult person can have their own place.
Right, but they're, like, in
not
their own...
leaving.
Yeah.
And, like, grandparents live with family still.
Sure.
And what's really interesting, especially at my school, the grandparents are the ones taking the kids after school. The grandparents are the ones
Sure.
with them until mom and dad get back from work.
Right.
Which is, obviously nice for daycare reasons and have all that stuff. But, like,
Yeah, I need to get my parents to move here.
right?
You take the baby.
But I always loved that part. I'm like, oh, I wish my mom would do that. I'm like, my mom's not going to do that. She's not going to move where I am to hang out with my kids.
Right.
I have to move where she is and then ask her to babysit.
Right. Yeah, I do like, it's even like the Hispanic culture in Morris.
Right.
There's far more of that, like, one big family that you're all, like, sharing together in order to survive and, like...
Doing stuff together.
Yeah, you just see far more of that culture of...
Right.
We're all in this together.
On weekends, if like you go to a park, you see a lot of families together, and it's pretty nice.
Right, or like
It's, like,
even
encouraging.
there's always like big group in like one of the rental shelters in the parks, or like
For sure.
the Sunday soccer games.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
like
I love
all that stuff that you're like, you don't really see that type of spontaneous, which is also, I think, part of American culture is far more competitive.
For sure.
People don't necessarily get together like, we're going to get all of our friends and family together to just like play a sport for fun.
Right.
Yeah,
Soccer's
We're
a
only
huge
getting
deal.
together so that you can prove your feats and your, like, it's far more of a competitive than just we're going to get together and have fun.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes we see like families playing basketball together, and none of them are good at basketball.
But they're just doing it.
Right.
And I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are terrible at basketball.
Right.
Like,
You don't kick the basketball.
well, and it's literally the whole family. It's mom, dad,
Wow.
brother, sister, maybe uncle, aunt, like, and you're like, wow, that's super fun. But you're like, that doesn't really happen where I live.
Right.
And so,
Just bad customer service. That's the only thing wrong with
yeah,
Ecuador.
that's the hard part. Bad customer service.
They have so this is like a pet peeve. They put things on their menu all the time that they don't have.
Oh no.
So,
Kills me.
You look at a beer list and you're like, I'll have that one. They're like, we have these 3.
You're like, what?
You
Or
have
coffee.
20 on here.
They all say they have cold brew. No one
No
has
one has
cold,
cold
brew.
brew.
Interesting.
And you're like, what? Or like, do you still have that frappe? Like, and they're like, no. I'm like, do you have any of the coffee on this menu? No.
And
Maybe we
it's
should get
kind
rid
of
of this menu.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's kind of a little bit like a rude no. Like, why did you ask?
Right,
It's like,
and
I
you're
don't know.
like-
You had the menu there.
Yeah, you gave me a menu with things to pick.
So
That's weird.
that's the hardest part. You're like, what?
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
definitely
We
think
like to
we're
eat snacks,
impatient there.
so that's what.
Yeah. So is like is tipping established? Like
It's
same as
different.
America, or
Depends, like, kind of who you ask, but a lot of people don't tip there. And I only tip if we're going out to, like, a nice restaurant, and then I'll tip like I'm in the U.S. Because I'm like, I don't know, it's a nice restaurant, I feel like.
We
Yeah.
tipped our taxis for the first month, and then we became Ecuadorian, and we don't tip them anymore.
Yeah, and it's not really a thing.
Yeah.
Which, like, part makes sense. Another part you're like hard to like get out of the habit. Because
Right.
if you do tip someone, they're like so floored happy.
They're like getting the change, and you're like, no, we're good.
Yeah.
Right, and they're like, wow, thank you so much. And you're like,
That
wow,
was
to
easy.
make someone stay with $1. Like, this is
Right.
amazing.
Yeah, it's not an expectation, so when you do choose to do it,
They're like, whoa.
yeah.
But, I mean, it's hard because minimum wage there's $375 a month. And
Right.
in my opinion, like, yeah,
It's
probably a lot of
crazy.
people live off that, but
Yeah.
you're still very poor to live off that. I mean, our rent's $350 a month for one bedroom. Granted, you could get one for like $150.
Yeah.
There's
But-
poorer areas of town
Yeah.
too. Because I was asking a coworker that, I was like, what? We were some government building doing something for my work, and there's security guards there, and I asked her, like, what is security guard, like, is that a good job or not? And she's
Yeah.
like, no, they make minimum wage.
Sure.
And I was kind of like, what do you do? And it's like, well, you either live with your family, or you,
Mm-hmm.
I guess like here, like you get a bunch of bros together and you kind of live in a crappy apartment where you only
Sure.
have to pay $100 a month each or something. But on the flip side, it's, to me, it's somewhat encouraging. Like, sometimes I have the thought of, especially just like being in the U.S., of, oh, it's another country, like they're poor, that sucks. And you go somewhere and you see a lot of people thriving, a lot of people going to work,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
yourself, you're making less money and you're fine. You know, you're
Right.
like, I'm still enjoying my life about the same.
Yeah.
So that's kind of encouraging. And then some people do have money, or some people work really hard or get good jobs, and they have, you know, nice houses and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's changed my perspective a little bit. Going like, you can live in another country and be perfectly happy because there's lots of,
Right.
instead of just thinking like, I'm so glad I live in the U.S. because like other places suck or something.
Right.
It's like,
Which, I mean, I
Yeah.
love the U.S. for a lot of reasons, but I also really appreciate different things, and I love Ecuador. I think once you live abroad or go abroad enough, you never find the perfect place. Because there's some things that I love about Ecuador,
Yeah.
and there's some things that I love about the U.S.
Right.
And, like, they're not going to ever come together. Like, the community aspect, like, there's parts of it.
Right.
But, like, I love that about Ecuador.
Yeah.
Then there's things like the U.S. where I'm like, if I call someone, they'll probably come give me internet the next day
Yeah.
and not make me wait 3 weeks, you know?
Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
You can ship it.
Other
Amazon.
thing-
That's amazing. Don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the other thing is just like in our neighborhood, it was like, yeah, there's no high-speed internet.
You're like,
I was
what?
like, so none of my neighbors are like watching Netflix? Like, what do you mean there's
So like
no high-
dial-up?
Kinda.
We got like,
I mean,
well, we tried to go with a provider that, the one that we didn't end up with. It
Yeah.
was like, the most I can give you is like the speed was like 5 gigabytes or something.
you're like, what? I can open an email?
And so we were like,
Jeez.
no. And so we got the we got the good company,
Yeah.
and then we got like the 50 gigabytes or 60 or whatever, the
Still-
normal internet.
Yeah. Which still, even in the U.S., that's not that fantastic.
Yeah.
Ours is actually really good, but maybe it's like because we're the only one around there
Yeah.
that's high speed.
You're just using everyone else's because no one else has it.
Well, it's weird too but it makes sense if you think about it because we're paying $65 a month for high speed internet. $65 is basically what we spend here
Right.
on a way different salary. Like,
Yeah.
that's why no one has internet like that.
Right. Yeah, it's just different priorities.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about seeing different cultures and stuff, though, is like, then within your family, you can, like, take some of those things that you really appreciate and be
Mhm.
like, within our own family culture, we
Right,
can
right.
say, we're going to,
Invest in internet and watch Netflix.
yeah,
This is like a nerdy thing, but the Facebook has no data, at least no data that they put on for their ad platform on salary. So if you're trying to target people, you
okay.
can't target according to salary. So that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Sorry, that's super nerdy and not relevant to anyone.
I was like, what?
But your target market probably isn't even people in Ecuador.
Except that they do have a lodge on the coast that they do advertise for. So.
Okay, so there
Then
is
you have to
some-
like guess by profession. You have to like
Right.
target by that instead. But
Right, but it's still really expensive, like what you're offering for Ecuadorians.
So
Yeah.
what's the professions to have in Ecuador? Like what would be those high paying?
I'm guessing
higher
like probably the same ones we would want here,
Like
like,
doctors
doctors and vets and
Sure.
all that. I mean,
I don't really know enough.
there's not like any ones I think of that specifically like stand out to me.
Right. Is there much manufacturing type stuff there, or not so much?
There is some. I don't have like a great understanding. A lot of the things are imported, so
That's hard.
and it's a small country, so they're not making everything. All the cars are from China and the U.S.
Right. Yeah.
That's the hardest part, I think, about when you come to like prices of things like Nikes and you want your Aeropostale shirt and American
Right.
Eagle, and it's like 3-4 times what you pay in the U.S. And
Even
you're
like little things like we were talking about, pencils cost more, and
Sure.
notebooks cost more.
Yeah.
And so I could pay $6 for a notebook, and I would just want to get like a 40-cent tablet.
Yeah.
right.
And I went to the store and I couldn't find that.
So you're gonna stock up before you fly back. Like Dan's got like 25 notebooks in his backpack.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna make my work pay for them. I'm like, I'm not gonna pay for
There
these
you go.
anymore. Oh my
So I
gosh.
feel like that is an interesting thing about like the wealth of like a bigger nation or like the U.S. is some things are cheaper because you can make so many. There's the scale,
Right.
you're getting the good deals on the taxes or the importation or whatever.
Yeah. Or
So
the-
it costs
you-
more to be poor if a notebook costs $6.
Right.
You
Yeah.
might not
that's
buy one
interesting.
or you might not buy a new toothbrush or something because it costs more than it does here. Or
Right.
it costs basically nothing.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's the hardest part about going shopping and being like, what? That's how much it costs here? You can't have my money. And then
Yeah.
you're like, it's a toothbrush. And you're like,
Tell people
I gotta buy one.
I have to have deodorant.
It's
You
like,
gotta-
oh.
tell that people have like less clothing too, just like in a professional setting, because they're re-wearing it. So like in the States, like a lot of times, especially women, like in the States, like that you're working with, you don't see that. I don't see them wear the same thing very often.
Right.
And there, I was like, oh, like that lady wore that same outfit
Yeah, like
last week,
The
which
business
makes sense. There's nothing wrong with it. I wear the same things,
Right.
but that's just an interesting thing. It's like, well, she probably has,
I think they have less material.
7
stuff.
work outfits,
Right.
not 35.
Right.
So
Yep. That's interesting.
good times. Kels, is this your first podcast that you've ever been on?
It has.
Is it inspiring you to start your own podcast?
Ooh.
Probably not. But
You and Haley could start the.
the wives of the unicorn. Cowboy
No.
unicorn.
That's the opposite of Cowboys and
Didn't Haley come up with Cowboys and Unicorns?
Yeah, she did.
We didn't pay her for it either.
I know.
Consulting fee.
Yeah, we gotta
She's probably still waiting on that.
we gotta mooch off another free photo shoot while you're here too.
For sure.
We can do in studio.
Like
Cowboys
hand
and
under the
Unicorns.
chin.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
Professional shots.
that would be so funny.
It would be good.
Yeah.
We should try to make some stock photos, except it's us in them.
Yeah.
Like in office spaces and
Yeah.
stuff with clear glass tables and
Yep. Super
in
legit.
places like that. Sorry guys, the nacho voice ruined the combo.
Nacho. I don't know. I think that was good.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Have a great night, everyone, or morning, or
Do you have any last words, Kales?
something wise to impart to listeners?
If somebody wants to move abroad in 6 months, what would you recommend?
Do your research. It's worth it, but sometimes it's not easy. But that's okay. Find people that have done it before.
Read Dan's blog post about the cost of that. That was interesting.
Yeah, I have a cost.
Specifically for Ecuador.
Right.
Right.
But it's kind of an interesting thing, like if you were thinking about making that jump, to just even get some type of perspective
Right,
of
for sure.
someone who did something similar.
The
what
biggest
it took.
the biggest thing is just doing it. Like
Yeah.
packing your bags and going. You're already there. You're doing great.
Yeah. Living in Ecuador, week number 4, startup cost. That's my blog on Medium at Dan Runs Fast.
Boom.
A little plug there.
Go check
Do you have
it
anything
out.
to plug? Your Instagram handle?
Yeah.
Go follow KM Tiernan to see me posting really cool pics of Ecuador.
KMTIER.
Don't get too jealous because there is things.
If you
behind
want to know
the
about real
scenes.
life, just message me. Or you'll just see it on my post with a pretty picture. Be
Is
like,
Dan crying again?
be like, probably, but I'm happy. Thanks for asking.
This has been the Cowboys and Unicorns podcast. I'm Dan.
I'm David.
And I'm Kaylee.
Signing off.
Peace out.